Alright, in this video we're going to detail grasp bird's tail in Yang style Tai Chi. So we want to remember some of our basic fundamentals about structure and things like that. So I want to go over, before we get into the movement itself, sort of our range of movement with our hands and where our elbows need to be in general. So if you imagine sort of a space in front of you, kind of a box, actually kind of a cube, so we have dimensions going forward and back here, and dimensions going up and down, and then of course across the front. So if I draw a box in front of me here, and then a little further out draw a box in front of me, and then split the crosshairs like that, we sort of have this sort of three-dimensional space. I want to talk about it in terms of that. And I actually have another video that I'll be posting soon that will go into that in more detail with a better explanation. But generally speaking, just as a reminder, we don't want our hands up too high. Our wrists will only really ever go up to about the level of our shoulder. Our elbows will always be down below the shoulder and wrist, so I'm never going to be in a situation where I'm like this with the elbow up high. So the elbows drop down and generally pointing towards the floor or close to pointing towards the floor at all times. So by the same token, as far as the width out, you can actually open your hands up quite a bit. But in Yang style Tai Chi, we'll never quite get to a full 180 degrees opening of the arms like this, like you would do in, say, like Northern Long Fist. So we want to make sure that we keep a stretch across the shoulder blades. So you can open the hands up, arms up like this, but you've got to pay attention to two things. One is the shoulder joint itself. You don't want it to feel like it's getting impinged back here. And also between the shoulder blades on the back, you don't want to feel like that's pinching. That should be open and stretched. And the shoulder joints themselves open here. So generally speaking, I never really open up more than about a 90-degree angle between my arms. So even on the most wide open moves like single whip or something like that, I'm not overdoing it. So there's that. When the hands are going down, generally speaking, I don't drop the wrist below my hip or the belt level. So it'll come down to, here-ish, but the fingertips might go down a little lower, but the wrist itself, I'm not going to let the hand just dangle like that, so keep it up in a line. All right, so that's just some basic reminders. Again, I'm going to have a video more about that structure and the box kind of formation in more detail. But for now, grasp bird's tail, we want to talk about the footwork and placement. And generally speaking, the footwork in grasp bird's tail is just the basic stance of Tai Chi. So a 45-degree angle with your back foot, your front foot straight forward, and a channel between, you can see this line on the floor here, and then I've got my feet on either side by about 4 inches or so. So I have about an 8-inch, roughly, give or take, about a 6 or 8 inch channel between my feet. That's critical because if you don't have that channel, you won't be able to turn your waist properly in order to make the hands do what they're going to do without twisting your knees. So make double sure that you've got that channel going. In order to get there, we're going to turn the left foot out 45 by turning the body, shift into the left foot, release the right foot off the ground and bring it in close. And I'm facing the corner, or facing the 45-degree angle with my body. Step out, and you notice I haven't turned yet. Step out and find that spot for your foot, my right foot in this case. And then we're going to be able to shift and turn on the first movement, that being ward off. Okay? So it's important that the footwork be correct from the beginning. If the footwork is not correct, nothing up above it's going to really be correct. You're going to be compensating by moving your arms in ways that aren't going to be correct. So make sure your foot placement is right. That's the most important thing to start off with. So again, I'm going to turn my left foot out 45 degrees, and it's easy to overturn. So if you need to put a little mark on the floor that gives you a 45-degree angle, or make note of something that you can look off to the angle with and point your toes at that, so you really truly have 45 degrees and not more than that. Then shift over, bring your foot in close, and then when you step out, don't step straight forward because you will have no channel. Make sure you're stepping wide. So I know I'm repeating myself, but bears repeating. It's important. Okay. So a good solid foundation, good proper base for your structure will allow you to have the right movements up top. All right, so let's go through the 4 elements of grassroots tail. They are ward off, roll back, press, and push, or in Chinese, peng, lu, ji, an. And my preferred translations of peng, lu, ji, an are bounce, yield, squeeze together, and settle the palm. But that's just me. So I'm going to do it facing this way, so you can see from this side first. We'll turn the foot, shift in, draw the right foot in, and here I'm going to bring the hands up in peng, and the left hand will drop down, palm down, and I'm slightly rolling the elbow in and turning the right hand to where I've got a little bit of a slant to it. Kind of like you're going to toss a frisbee up into the air at an angle. So it's not, I haven't got my fingers aligned vertically. I'm going to allow there to be a bit of a slant here, okay? And not too large of a structure as I step out. Then I'm going to shift and turn forward, okay? Now, before I go any further, a reminder that all turns in Tai Chi are pulls with the hip. Pull back with the right hip or pull back with the left hip, one of the two. So what I've got going on here, once I've taken my step, is as I shift forward, I'm pushing out of my left leg, and I'm going to sink my weight down into the right leg, dropping my weight down, but I'm pulling back the right hip at the same time. So I've got my weight spilling down into the right leg, and I've got a very yang movement moving forward, and I'm pulling the right hip back for the yin aspect of it. So when I do that correctly, it doesn't feel like I'm going like this. It feels like I'm screwing myself into the floor through my right foot. So it should feel more like a connection down into the ground there through the right foot. And you get that by not just pushing out of your left foot, but also by pulling your right hip back and dropping your weight down. So it's going to be there, okay? And it should have that kind of a flavor to it. Okay. Now then, that's ward off. So I'm going to show you ward off from this side. Turning the left foot out again. Shift in. Arms up. Drop the left hand down. And rolling that right elbow. Step out. Shift. Pulling the right hip back. Okay. And we want to make sure we don't overdo the weight shift here too. I want to make sure that the knee doesn't go past the toe, and in fact my shin is perpendicular. Hopefully the camera is perpendicular, because if it's not, then it will look funny. But pulling the right hip back. Okay? When we're coming out of the ward off left from the form, and I'm going to do it this way, as if we started the form facing away from the camera, and we do this transition, I'll have a video specifically for the transition separately. We come in. Our left foot is already at that 45-degree angle when we do that. So all we have to do is bring the right foot in and the right hand, we're in that position. We step out, don't turn yet. Turn as you shift by pulling the right hip back. Okay, then we're going to do roll back, which is a sit back and turn out. When you do the turn out on roll back, you're pulling the left hip back. All right, but before we get into that, I'm going to show you that transition really quickly. When we finish the ward off here, I'm going to actually do a slight pull of the left hip and then another pull of the right hip right back where it was in order to get this curl right here with the hands. So the hands are coming up, they're going to form a curl and circle around like that. And I'm doing that by pulling with the left hip and then pulling with the right hip and just changing how, rotating the hand over as I do it. So we finish the ward off. Pull with the left hip as you turn the right hand over and the left hand as well. Then drop the right hand down and pull with the right hip. And there's no weight shift there, it's just pull, pull, like that. And that gives you this nice little circle right here. So from this side, we've done ward off. I'm going to pull with the left hip, pull with the right hip. And then I'll shift back by sitting down into the left leg, and then pull with the left hip and bring the hands down here to finish the roll back or the yield. It's harder to see from this side, but show it this way. Finish the ward off, pull with the left hip, pull with the right hip, then sit back, pull with the left hip. Okay? Now, that pull to get that curl can be really, really small. I recommend that you practice it large first, just to get the feeling of it, the timing of it. So you can even do it something pretty dramatic, like here, and go, and then shift back and finish. But eventually, you want it to be pretty subtle, so it's just that. I mean, it's going to look to someone like you just turned your hand over, but there's actually a full circle in there. It's just very subtle. And then back. Okay. So that's ward off and roll back, or palm and loop, or bounce and yield. Okay. The next one is press, or ji in Chinese, which is really press together or squeeze. I usually say squeeze together. This is the one where we connect our fingers to the inside of the wrist. Some schools will do palm to palm or fingers to fingers. We do fingers to the inside of the wrist. This one's very simple comparatively. So once we've done finished our yield here, you'll notice that my left palm is facing pretty much up, and my right palm is facing down. I'm going to turn both hands as I turn my body back facing the front. I do that by pulling the right hip, and then I'm closing the upper gate in order to connect and pretty much roll the right hand onto the left fingers. So you can see here, I did that. I'll do it from the side. And again, I've got my elbow down, fingers are pointing kind of up at a slant. These are squeezing together, not too hard. And then I just shift forward and drop into the front leg. There's no turn there, so that's a sink, because we already got the turn here, and then it's there. Okay? So that's press, or G. And then the final, I'm not going to show you from that side because you won't see any of the detail. And then the final one is on, which is horribly translated as push. It should be settle the palm. Once we've finished the squeeze together and the press, you see people do it a couple different ways. What I do is turn the right hand, palm down, and then brush across the top, like I'm brushing something off with my left, and pulling the right hand back too. So it's not just the left hand, both hands are splitting apart as I sit back and drop down. So the hands drop and split. Then I'm going to sit forward and drop into the front leg again as I coil both hands. And don't overdo it. Just go to there. Okay? So I've got this sort of pointed house looking, roof of the house kind of like looking shape here. All right, so that looks like this. Back, dropping the hands down, and then coil and sink. Notice I'm doing a drop here. A lot of schools kind of do a rise up. I don't prefer that myself. I'm not going to say it's wrong. I'm just saying that's not how we like to do it. In our lineage, we're going to drop at the end. And there's a coiling and squeezing and closing of the upper gate right at the end there. So those are the 4 basic movements of grass bird's tail. I'm going to just do the movement one time, facing this way, the whole thing, so you can see, and that will be the end of this segment. So, turning the left foot out, shift in, draw the right foot in close, hands will come up, left hand drops down, rotate the right hand just a little, step out, make sure that it's the channel, ward off, roll back, press, and push. hopefully that's some details for you on grass first sale. In future videos, of course, we'll be doing more details regarding the mechanics and the energetics of things that will apply to all the movements. So these are just some simple details to start to be able to let you practice and not worry about whether or not you're basically doing it right. So, good. See you in the next video.